Hey, and welcome to the HUFTCAST, Huft Media's new podcast, where we'll be highlighting and talking with some of our favourite artists and hustlers from all around the world. Today, me and Raza had a conversation with Brian Niles, a young and up-and-coming music video director who's worked with artists such as Blueface, Gunna, and Boogie with a Hoodie before he reached the age of 20. We hope you enjoy our conversation.
How is it in LA though now, like with the situation?
Um, I think it just became a thing where you have to have masks now. Like it's a mandated, like legal thing in public places.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, it's going about as well as it can go. I think you know we hopped on it kind of early, like all the like what am I saying?
Yeah, like compared to everyone
So
else.
tired.
Yeah,
Yeah, all of the precautions and staying inside and all that. So, and I've just been inside for like I don't know, I've lost track of time honestly.
yeah, literally.
Like
It's mad though, like being
three
stuck
weeks.
inside, it gives you so much perspective, doesn't it? Like,
It does, and it lets you I don't know, you just I've noticed how much of my life is like just like full of distractions almost. You know how you always have like those goals that you want to be working towards or whatever, and then when you actually have that time to yourself to think about like where you're at personally,
mhm.
it can almost be like a wave of anxiety can almost come in, because you just have so much time alone with your thoughts,
Mm.
and you're not like hanging out with other people or doing all
Yeah.
this, and that can be really good because that gives you perspective on like what you actually need to be doing with your life. But at the same time, it's like brutal. you
Mm.
know
I mean, like it's weird because like obviously the way I met you, just for a bit of context, is like I was in LA and I know Thomas who goes to USC, and at the time I was kind of waiting to hear back from USC, so I was chilling with Brian and a few other
mm,
people, and I was just having some like really deep conversations with you guys while I was there, and like those experiences have really like marinated in my head since, and like
yeah,
it's mad because I went to the other side of the world, but like the way I was able to resonate with people was almost like I didn't have those experiences as frequently as you guys do there here. So it was like really eye-opening for me to see that, and like kind of the whole like big fish little pond big pond thing.
mm,
Like it's
yeah,
really,
yeah,
I find it almost comforting to be around people like yourself who are doing shit like what you're doing. It like really like makes me feel like at ease. I don't know if you, how
yeah.
do you find, because like
No, dude, I do too. I'm so thankful for the people that I've met here because that's honestly what keeps me grounded. And back to the whole like, how is it going with all of this? That's the worst part is that everyone's back at their like in their homes, like not even in LA. Like I'm one of the few people who live in LA, so I'm here anyway. But like Thomas, for example, is in Massachusetts. Tippy went back to um, Texas. Like Will and all them went back to the Bay Area. So like not having that kind of support group and people in the extent that we usually do is hard. But that's why I love this because it's like almost the same thing. It's as good as you're
yeah,
gonna get.
yeah,
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I
it's
think these kinds of conversations and like reaching out and keeping those spirits up like mutually because everyone needs that,
yeah,
digitally uh,
yeah, I mean like
is the best thing. Yeah.
you like Brian goes to USC, which is a top film school, and I'm sure a lot of people say that to you. But like, what I felt when I was there is like this. It's like this healthy working environment bubble, and you're just, it's constant immersion of like everyone's doing what they love and what they're like the best at, and everyone's just pushing each other to be better. And like just to be pulled out of that suddenly, it can be like quite, I imagine it's quite like a shocking experience, you know?
Yeah, and it's tricky for me too because this was my and Thomas, both of us. This was our first semester because we were spring transfers.
Mm.
Um, so it was like I was just getting in the groove and used to it, and then it all pulled out. And again, the most jarring part was when everyone was like, because it was right at our spring break too, and I remember we were all in Will's apartment, and it was like all of us together, And for some reason, it didn't click that everyone was getting ready to like go home. And I was like, oh, at least we all have each other and everything. And everyone's like, well, my flight's leaving tomorrow morning. My bag's here, like all this. I'm like, wait, hold up. So it's so jarring.
Yeah, man.
How about you, Harvey? How you been doing with all this?
I think it's, for me, it's quite therapeutic. You know, I've been able to sort of
Yeah.
sit down and focus on things that I need to do this year. Like before, we were Raza and I both were just about going to shooting our short films, part of our curriculum at our college, and then for that just to be like taken away from us, it's like, I'm not just, you know, you got to realize that we're not just going to wait around, and we're not just going to be like, oh, we'll just shoot when this is all over. So okay, what can we do from now? So like, whether that's working on the next projects. So just to give a bit of context, I've started writing my first feature and I'm about to write my second feature in this time. So like, that's what I think people should be doing now. Or like reading, like I've started reading more books, and the things that you have, you know, you have time, and like, you got to make time in your life to do stuff like that, you know, to sit down in your house and write, and sit down in your house and read, or to do stuff around the house. And then outside is what, you know, it's kind of difficult to put those two things together, especially if you're like my where I'm 18 and I also work in a restaurant you know, to be able to fund this sort of stuff. But then it's like, okay, now I have the time to write, to read, to work on my production company, Huff Media, and social media on that. So it's all about like using this time as you would if you weren't in this situation. You know what I mean by that? Like, I don't know, it's just a bit of like a punch in the face, and then you just like, okay, I need to sort of do something now.
Yeah.
But I just want to ask, so we were watching your film, we were watching one of your films yesterday. We watched all your films, the short films, and like, you started at a real young age, and I just thought it was crazy.
Oh God, bro, those go way back. It's funny, like all the short films that I have right now that are up are things I made in high school. And anyway,
Do you want to continue making like short films, or are you going to focus on music videos? 'Cause you're doing so well with the music videos as well.
Honestly, for music videos, for me, it's like a great way to experiment with like visual styles and techniques and other things, because you really do have, because it's both more constrained, like time wise, and just like, you know, post and everything, you can kind of be more experimental. And if you have like one idea that you're like, I wonder how that would work out, the music video is a great medium to then try that and maybe implement that further into a narrative style. Like directors like the Daniels would be a great example of that, where they found a footing in music videos and commercials, and this very potent style that they had then translated to their first feature, Swiss Army Man. So I love music videos for that. But narratives is kind of like being able to write something and express that is so powerful to me. And back what you were saying about using this time to write, I've got a few short concepts that I'm developing and that I want to have full scripts for by the time this is all over, so we can, that's what I'm most excited for, is like, you know, you're writing stuff, a lot of people are writing stuff, and once this is all over, just being able to execute on all those things is such an exciting prospect.
Like, I notice I value like the ability to execute so much more now, not being able to do it. Like, because sometimes you sit around for ages when you have the complete ability to do something, and you kind of ponder, and now you're in a situation where you can't do it. You feel like, fuck, I should have hit it while I could have, you know?
Like, I feel like no one's gonna take anything for granted anymore.
I feel like there's gonna be like almost like a sudden burst when everyone comes out, where so much shit is only gonna happen, and then it's gonna drop a little bit maybe. But like, it's really interesting the way this has like affected everyone in the same way almost. But like, going back to music videos, I wanted to ask you a question, because like, obviously you kind of have a similar situation to us, and it's weird, like the situation which all of us and our backgrounds have come from is like, we all started at kind of young ages, and And remind me how old you are now?
I'm 19.
19. Yes,
Dear God, I
like
almost
you're
forgot.
still a teenager, and like
Yeah.
directing for artists like Blueface, Gunna, Boogie with a
Mhm.
Hoodie, like it, and that like momentum is crazy. And it seems like from the outside that you're working at breakneck pace. Like so,
Yeah.
like I mean, music video after music video. So I mean, like just for us and for the viewers, maybe like how did you kind of am I right in saying you kind of got into film through your school? How did you go from there to like or where you are now?
Yeah. Yeah, I went to a arts high school in Los Angeles, and that's where I started taking film seriously. It was only like just a thing I really enjoyed and a hobby before that. I'd never made any like actually structured work until I got there. Um, and coming out of high school, I took an entire year at community college, just doing schoolwork and getting GEs out of the way so I could transfer to somewhere like USC. And in that time, I literally did not make a single thing. And I kind of let it ruminate in the back of my mind. And then I think it was the year after that, which was the start of this year, since I had that semester off being a spring admit. I had nothing to do this fall semester. So a friend of mine, Austin, who's not going to college at all, it's like point blank period. He's
Yeah.
doing his thing. He just shot a feature last summer. We were kind of like, we realized we were kind of in the same situation. We're like, let's just make the most out of this. And music videos, I've learned so much about that medium. It's such an interesting and unpredictable kind of thing. There's little structure to it, and there's so much kind of happenstance and things that have to align. We were doing freelance work in our spare time, and freelancing for this company called Full Screen. They like produce YouTube videos for just clients or whatever. And Blueface was going to, I don't know if I should say this, but he was gonna have a YouTube channel. So they were like thinking about signing, he was thinking about signing to them. So as a favor, they kind of just wanted to shoot a video for him. And I just happened to be getting lunch with Austin and the person who was like head of production at that company like that morning. And he was like, yo, I'm trying to shoot this video. We don't really have much of a plan. Like, do you guys want to come along? And it was for Blueface. And I don't think he knew as much about Blueface as like we didn't. We're like, dude, of course. And we shot him. It was him leaving on his tour bus that day for a Lil Baby tour, I think. And while I was kind of shooting the video, Austin got to know his team a little bit. And then through that, I think one day he had lunch with his head of marketing, and he was like, well, what, and his head of marketing like asked him some questions like, well, what do you want to do, like what could I help you with? And he was like, what's the possibility of us doing a video? And honestly, it was kind of that simple. Obviously we had to go through a pitch process. He approached his manager, and his manager essentially was like, oh yeah, there's a few videos we need to have done, just have them pitch for this one. And then we did. And then through that process, at that point, it's just like any other pitch, like competition. You're competing with other directors. And we won the pitch. And then through them, they kind of just came back for another video. And that all happened in like 2 months. Like the video, like First Class being shot and edited was a 2-week process. And as soon as that was over, we went to New York for the Hocus Pocus one. And then as soon as that was over, it was kind of, that was it for that period of time. So like you'll have these periods where you're like working nonstop, and then it'll be like nothing. And then in that time you can then work on your own projects in that.
That's like the nature of the beast.
It's so unpredictable.
Yeah, because like
so unpredictable.
It's so weird being at our age now. Me and like Harvey just turned 18. I turned 18 at the end of this month, And like I get into the point where everyone's expecting you to make your mind up about life or have some sense of
Oh my God.
stability.
I know.
And like it's like
Seriously.
either university or consistent employment. And it's like I want to be the thing that I want to do may one week pay me like £1 million, and then for the next 5 years I might not make any money. Like that's what it is. It's so
Yeah.
and like, but that's kind of why you love it at the same time. And
Yeah.
I think it's something like liberating just being in that position and not really caring as much as everyone else does about those kind of things.
Yeah. It's you definitely get a perspective on it, because coming into a job like that, you have an expectation of what it will be, and then it happens, and then you know how that process actually goes. And it is eye-opening. Like it confirmed for me how much I want to be grounded in a narrative format, even if I am going to do a music video like that. And it kind of gives you new perspective on like what you actually want out of certain things and what you're doing things for or whatever.
And I think doing these
So
things
yeah.
at such a young age is like helps a lot as well, because then you're not in a position where you're just like later on in life and you're like pressured more to pick a certain path. Now you're like
Yeah,
at such a young age where like you can try something. If you don't like it, like who cares, just do something else.
exactly. Yeah,
Like
that's the most invaluable. Yeah, that's the most valuable thing you
The
could.
risk taking.
Yeah,
yeah, like me
yeah,
and Harvey,
absolutely.
smaller scale, we've tried like music videos, and like
Hmm.
we just from those small experiences, we kind of like, oh, this is what we expected. Some things we didn't expect, the
Yeah,
other things, and you kind of know what you like and what you don't like.
Mm.
And I think it's better to try this shit now and like,
exactly.
and
It
And
is
that,
crazy. Yeah,
sorry, I was just gonna say,
go
and
ahead.
that can be the same with like art in general. You know, you could
Mhm.
try like I used to be in a band. You try music, and then it's like after a while, it's like I hate this. You know, I want to go back to film. You go back to film,
Yeah,
and it's good that you like trying so many different things. You know what you like, and people used to always say that to me all the time. I was like, no, I know I want to do this, but then just to get that double sort of clarification just helps a lot.
yeah. That's the thing I'm most thankful for, especially in high school too, because I feel like a lot of my films in high school are essentially that in embodied in a project. It's just me trying something, seeing if I like it, and then taking that forward, and the elements that I did like, I'll implement into my next project, and the things I didn't, I'll just drop.
yeah,
And that's kind of it's funny because right now I wouldn't like completely stand by those films because I don't think they have much in any way of a stylistic consistency. But that's because they are the journey of finding that
yeah,
essentially.
Of course, yeah.
And that's what I'm focused on now, is just combining those things that I've learned into stuff that I genuinely want to do. And then things like the music videos I've done, like you said, they kind of confirm that again in terms of what I want to be doing, the types of people I want to be working with. Because you know, you coming up, you kind of, with like no experience for me in that field, you kind of look at every artist as the same thing. You're like, well, an artist is an artist. Making a music video for a big artist is just making a music video for a big artist. You don't think that there could actually be an insane difference between making a video for this artist or this artist if they appear at the same level of, you know, popularity or whatever it is.
Mm.
You start to realize the types of people you want to be working with, the types of artists that you want to be working with, because I've had such a range of experiences making music videos. And since it's all summed up into one medium, you think it's not that different making music video for one or another, but it can totally be. And that usually comes down to what the artist wants to put into it, what they want to get out of it, why they're a musician, why they're an artist. Because some do just have a desire to do something artistic, and others see it more as like a commercial for themselves, you know?
that's
And
that's something like
yeah,
so abstract, like because when you're a filmmaker, those thoughts don't typically run through your head.
not at all,
I
not
think
at all.
having to deal with
Yeah,
that shit is like something which is actually a big part of being a director, but something you don't ever consider because you're always just thinking about story and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like maybe just to ask you, like working on music videos, especially with bigger artists, how have you found like dealing with those personalities and
Is there a lot of pressure? Because that's what I would feel like, you know, even I worked with a friend who's like getting big. She's like big on TikTok, and I felt a huge pressure. And I was just wondering if you felt the same, because like working with someone like Blueface, I'd be like, you know, especially with like such a good song as well. That's why I
Yeah.
would sort of shit myself the whole way through directing. I do that with
For
my own.
some, well, there's something about like pitching the video and not having the job yet because it's a competition. That's kind of that kind of puts you at ease because you're honestly just trying your best to win the pitch, and through that you're trying your best to make a good idea. And obviously, like sometimes the pitching process can be super restrictive, and the management isn't going to want you to take it a certain place, so they're going to want it to be a very specific thing, which is again a whole other conversation. But essentially, you make the majority of that idea before you know that you have it. So there's not a pressure there yet. Like I think it'd be different if they said, "Oh, you have this job now, come up with this concept and do this." That's a lot different. So I kind of like the way the process is, because then once you get the job, it's all about executing because the idea is kind of already out of the way. Obviously, you can tweak it a little bit because, like a word of advice I got is like, once you get the job, you have the job. Like, it's yours. You should adhere to the pitch because that's what you've promised, but you are the director. You can take it in whatever way it needs to go to be the best thing it can be. And then from there, since the timeline on a video like that is so constrained, you almost can't think about that. Like, it's just about execution, and you have to put so many things into place that you don't have time to be anxious about it, really. At least for me, I was like, you always have like this next goal, and then through all those goals, you arrive at making the video.
Sure.
Like, I think that's a good metaphor for it in general. I think filmmaking is just problem solving. Like, you get to solve enough problems and you have a video and you have a movie, you know? But in the moment, you're just like solving the next problem.
And it's like, the more and more you put yourself out of that comfort zone, the less and less you get intimidated by it, I think. Because like, it's such in film, especially when you're starting out, like, I mean, like the stage we're all at is like, every next step you take is so much bigger than the last one. And it's like that jump from making like high school short films, like good high school short films, to like making a video with like a major artist, which gets millions of views. Like, and you probably have like a lot more crew around you and stuff like that. Like, it's a hell of a lot more responsibility suddenly on your shoulders. So like, how do you find is the best way to kind of manage that and kind of separate, it's an English term, the wheat from the chaff? Like, what's really important to pay attention to and what's not?
Y'all gotta teach me all the English terms. I want to know. We gotta hop on a call. Y'all gotta teach me all the slang. I want to know. But well, that's something I'm so grateful for, is the environment that I grew up around in high school with those people, because honestly, those are the people that I went to when we had the job. Like, the crew wasn't a professional crew. I mean, I guess you could say we're professionals, but I wouldn't call. Nah, we are. But it was all the same homies that I made films in high school with, honestly. Like, we were all in LA, or most of us were. We had the budget to fly a few people in from where they were in college at, like Jeremy Heron, for example, who's like one of my favorite people. He's an amazing cinematographer and gaffer. He was gaffer for the project. We flew him in from New York. He goes to NYU. And I think keeping that same, you have working relationships with people, and you successfully make things with those people. If you're doing another project, it kind of makes sense to keep that going, you know?
Yeah.
I think if we tried, I mean, obviously we hired a few people there are a few key positions that if I had the money to, I would hire those people, like first ACs, and like camera operators, like Steadicam ops and stuff. Those are the only two positions we hired, because the first AC and the Steadicam op are going to be like, they're going to make the a good one is going to make camera, like, is going to reduce the time of camera setup and camera changes and all of those things. That's just like something you won't have to think about, because a professional first AC I had like never worked with until these videos, and it blew my mind, like how quick they're able to make certain changes. And since that's their entire job, like they worry about the equipment, like you never touch the camera, you never worry about it. And usually
So you're muted. You're muted.
Sorry, I just like swiped. I just tried to swipe dirt away from my thing, and I have this like touch bar on my computer. Anyways, but they have a relationship usually with the camera operator. Like I tried to hire first ACs and camera ops that have worked with each other before, so they just kind of are the entire camera department. And since it's like not a feature film or something, it's kind of a smaller scale. That goes by super quick. But by keeping the majority of the people that I had made movies with, it felt like the same, and that helped ease the tension or the anxiety. Like if we decided to be ignorant and just like hire all new people because we thought it was like this big thing, make something of it that it's not, I think then it would start to fall apart, because none of these people would have worked together before. There wouldn't be like, you wouldn't feel any room to be creative, you know? So keeping those people, keeping that group is, I think, was a great thing to do.
I think you hear a lot of, especially in the position that we're in, we hear a lot of people like say that, you know, even like people right at the top saying like, I'm still working with my DP who I worked with in high school or in college. And I think
because it doesn't feel any different. It really doesn't. Like while you're making something, it's just like making something, and you've done it with these people before. So I don't know.
Was it like quite surreal, you know, going from, you know, making short films to now working with like artists who you sort of listen to on a day-to-day basis? Is that like, because like, and also I want to know a bit about like the relationship between you and say Blueface, for example, on First Class. Like did you like talk to him about what he wanted, or is it quite different that way?
So that's again one of those things that varies so much between every video you make, because every artist is going to be different in what they want out of it, how involved they are in the process. Some artists know exactly what they want, and then they are, you know, essentially they are like producers of the video in terms of going out and picking, you know, like a Kendrick Lamar who will go out and see an artist or a director that he loves the work from, and will make sure that person does the video, and then we'll work with that person. And then there's other artists who aren't as involved in it. And Blueface was not that involved in the, I mean, on our end, I didn't meet him until that day. I'd met him before because of the other video shoot, but his interaction, my interaction with him and his creative input was mostly through his manager. So I'm sure him and his manager had conversations about what they wanted out of the video, and through that, his manager gave us feedback and all of that. And that's, you know, what a manager's supposed to do. And on set, well, what I'll say is like Blueface, Gunna, Boogie, all those people are extremely easy to work with. Like you might expect a rapper of like a big caliber to have an attitude or an opinion, and they do, because they know what they want, but none of them are like mean about it or hard to work with about it. They all are just like Blueface is actually really in tune with certain like things in his videos, like that opening skit that we did. He was kind of quiet and would do like anything that I asked, but then as we started getting into it, he started having suggestions and just doing things. Like he's actually got a really great natural charisma and intuition for like comedy and all of that. So we actually had a lot of fun, kind of both making that into now what it is, and kind of through improv and all of that. But no one by any means was like hard to work with. Like they actually were all super professional in terms of like, you know, respecting the job of the director, respecting the job of whoever it was.
Yeah, a lot of.
And if they had something, they would
Sorry.
like, yeah, if they had something, they would just make a suggestion really cordially. And yeah,
I feel like a lot of people make it out that like, oh, rappers are the worst people to work with and this, that, the other. When, from what I've heard from many people who have worked with rappers, it seems like fun and chill. I just think like some people have bad experiences, but most people I've spoken to of working with rappers just seem like real, like it was just such a fun time. And it was just chill.
Yeah, I will say there definitely are rappers and any artists from any genre in general who will be the worst to work with. Like I not firsthand, luckily, but secondhand, and through some of my closest like friends who have made stuff for people, have horror stories, and like a lot of the time too, the artists themselves won't be hard to work with, but their team around them will be, because, well, that's honestly what you have a team for. Like they're going to take the hits for you. They're going to be, you know, they're going to be doing the bargains and being the bad guy so you can get what you want without having to tarnish your image. So a lot of the time the artist is never going to be that person, but sometimes the team will be hard to work with kind of on behalf of the artist, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But in my experience, yeah, that chill thing that you're talking about was more.
Did you know about those bad experiences before you went into like making music videos? Because I feel like if someone told me that before I went to make a music video, I'd get quite, you know, built up about it. It'd be quite nerve-wracking. You know, you don't want to have like an embarrassing sort of situation in front of a whole team you're meant to be directing, you know.
I think I did. I've seen horror stories. Like obviously the best one is the Wyclef Jean video with Young Thug by Ryan Stocke, I think his name's name. But that video is amazing. And that's exactly like that video came out, I think my senior year or my junior year of high school. So like I had known about that, and that gives you an idea of what it might be like working with a big artist. Yeah. So that was a concern. Like we just didn't know. Like I met those people the day of, and a lot of the time you do meet these people the day of. And I was like, I could not have told you if that person was going to show up or not, or if they were going to show up, when they were going to show up, and if they did show up, when they were going to leave. Because at this, like they can really decide that. Yeah. So we had the schedule down to a T, where we were like assembly line setting things up that we needed to shoot next, and doing all that, because if we didn't, there was real room for us to be messing around with something on set or trying to set something up, and the artist getting bored and being like, you know what, I'm just gonna leave. Yeah. And we were like, that can't happen. Like we can never be the people that they're waiting on, because then who knows. So there was definitely that fear there. But again, like it's so the experiences range so much in music videos that even those horror stories, even knowing them, like you don't know if that's going to be what it's like or not. Because I've also been on music videos where it's just the best thing ever. Like the artist, and these are mostly when I make songs with, or make music videos with like friends of mine from high school who were, you know, musicians, or like, you know, music majors, vocal majors or whatever. And they have songs and they want to make a video. And it's just like a very pure collaboration, and they have an idea of what they want. Those experiences are amazing. So I don't think knowing those horror stories makes you any less inclined to do it, especially if you want to get into music videos, because it could be the best thing in the world or the worst thing. It's like
anything else, really.
Yeah.
So just picking it back up, I was wondering if we could talk about like how, because I mean, from what I gather, this music video stuff actually happened right before you kind of entered film school. Am I right?
Yeah, like and a month before.
Yeah. How has like becoming a student in film school especially affected all of this stuff which is already happening?
Um, honestly, like, I don't know, because I kind of was seeking out those types of things because I wasn't in school, and now that I'm in school, I'm more focused on my personal growth in a way. Like I'm
Yeah.
in cinema media studies, and I've just been like watching as many films as possible and writing and editing. Like I shot another short in January that I'm in post for now, and kind of taking that time to step back and kind of
Mm.
grow as a person and an artist. Because I think that honestly, that's what I would love to get out of college is just that personal growth. Um, so yeah, I've just kind of let that
Yeah.
become the most important thing for me, because you know jobs will be there, and
Yeah.
music's not going away, music videos aren't going away. So
Yeah.
I'm just kind of focused on having something to offer, you know, as an artist, and
Yeah.
I think that comes with personal growth. So
I think I hear that a lot. I heard it from like Thomas as well. Like just the personal growth thing and being in film school seems like a very key thing. Like people are like conscious of using that time to just grow,
yeah,
not only as a, because the thing I admire actually about you guys is like in London, everyone seems to be in a rush, like in a rush to
mm,
get it done while you're young, and
Yeah.
like just get like. But in
yeah,
LA, everyone seems to be in a weird way more laid back about it, but at the same time doing more shit, which is really weird. And I
yeah.
think
It's
you guys have a more healthy mindset than we do, you know?
probably for some things, but for some things it's probably terrible.
Yeah,
Um, like I don't know. I think it really is just the people like that you become surrounded with. And I'm very lucky to be grounded with a group of friends that are similar minded in that, in what they hold as important and what they do. And honestly, I've come to that point through experience, because I know one of the best things about having resources in high school to make things was that mindset gets challenged. Like a lot of people come into the specific high school that I went to with that mindset of like, oh, I just we've got to go, we've got to do it. I just need these certain things, and then I'm going to be a great artist. And then whatever it is, like if it's a red camera or whatever you think it is, through doing that, you start to realize the more important things, like what you're saying and what you're expressing. And then that kind of is where, at least personally, I've arrived at that conclusion
yeah,
through that experience. Like if I didn't have that time, um, I would be starting to go through that all right now. But it's different for everyone. It's everyone's on their own personal journeys,
yeah,
and
yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, it's just being conscious of what you need right now. You
yeah,
know, like
Mm.
if I had never made a film before, I would be um, like production at USC would probably be what I would be aiming for. But since I decided to go more of like the media studies route, um, or just personally, because I felt like that was something I was lacking in high school.
yeah.
It was
Mm.
I
more
think,
of like that analytical.
yeah, because we're like right at the end of high school now, and like we're kind of having all of those same emotions. Like
Mm,
it's such a weird, because it's hard to know the difference as well. Like, because like we go to like this kind of film focused high school. We have a lot of resources available to us and a lot of time to make stuff like you did. And
yeah.
the like the disparity between a high school student's mindset and what the high school is offering to you creates this
Mm,
rift. And like
true.
you can get that frustration, especially towards the end of it, where it's like you just kind of want to get out and do it properly because there's this childlike nature of doing it within the confines of like a school. And I feel like from what it sounds like, you kind of have a little bit of that taken off you when you get to university, and it's more like a mature process.
Um, I mean, hmm, I don't I don't even know, because I not being involved in production, I don't know if I can speak to that. And also the people that I know, like Thomas, who are in production, um, like as a freshman, it's so different than it is as a junior or whatever it is. So I think time will tell, and who knows what that's going to be like.
Yeah,
Um, but Yeah, I think regardless, just having those, being somewhere that like you can get something out of it is so important, because that's all college is. Like, you're paying for it. You've got to come in with the attitude that you're gonna, like, almost like a Viking or whatever. Someone gave me that metaphor, that you're just gonna take what you need
Yeah.
at like um with no hesitation and no I don't know, you just like need to get what you can out of it,
Mm.
and not look back, you know.
Yeah, because like
It's almost like a
you'll
more,
never know what you didn't do, almost.
exactly, because you really have to make the most out of that experience. Otherwise, when you're paying so much money for it, like, it's hard to justify, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, a lot of people, like, there's no more being like, not polite, but I know a lot of people who have just done crazy stuff, like marching into like a dean's office and being like, I can't afford this, give me more money, and then getting a bigger scholarship. And like ballsy stuff like that is kind of the mentality you have to have, at whatever level in college. It just being like, I need to get what I need out of this, and no
Mm.
one can tell me I can't, you know.
Yeah.
So being somewhere where you have something to get is
Mm.
important.
Definitely. I feel
And
like that's
yeah.
the thing that I was like, me and Harvey had this fear like about college, where it's like, would we be lulled into this sense of like, oh, you're in college, like just
Mm,
focus on what's inside the college and don't look outside. And like, just you kind of get immersed in meeting the assignment criterias and like doing all that stuff. Would we forget about what being a filmmaker really actually is? And by the time we get out of college, would we be kind of unfamiliar with what we really had to actually be focusing on and doing? And I feel like
mm,
it's
That's because of where we are now, though. That's the
yeah,
thing. Like, a lot of the people
yeah.
in our class here, they've sort of got that. They're like, oh, I need to get the grade, I need to get, and they're not thinking about what's going on after this, you know.
Mm,
And that's where, like, when it comes to university, we're thinking like, because here it's like main universities here are like 3 years, so we're like 4 years of doing what we're doing now. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of for us,
yeah,
it's like scary, because it's like
yeah,
we feel like we're ready to go out to the big world, but our teachers here are saying, no, you can't, this, that, the other. And we didn't want to get like that. I don't know what to say, how to word it, but like that sort of pressure again for another 4 years,
yeah, absolutely. This is why I'm like, these are all things that, oh my God, I remember my senior year so vividly, because all those thoughts and all those pressures just kind of accumulate. And everyone is in their own process and doing their own thing, and there's so much pressure around like who's going to get in where, what's going to do. You like lose sight of what you actually need out of your life
yeah,
personally, because everyone's at a different place at the end of high school, so you all need
Mm.
different things. And for me, I definitely felt that, like, do I want to do 4 more years of production? Do I want whatever? And like, I literally did not get in anywhere, like, at all, like my senior year, um, because I applied for production, and I don't think my heart was in that, because I had my own doubts about that. And it's not that I felt. I mean, it's just because a lot of those production things are from the ground up, and they're amazing programs. But if you have made stuff before, and I think most people in the age of the internet have more than enough, more knowledge than you get honestly in the first 2 years, 3 years of film school, just through YouTube and through making things at home. Um, so it's just, do you need that or not? And I didn't know, because I also just, you don't have the answer. You don't know if it's going to be what you need, because you only have the perception of that.
mm,
You only have your idea of what USC will be like,
yeah,
or you can't actually make a judgment call. So not getting in anywhere, and having to sit with myself for a year, and my own thoughts about it, and really think like, what am I going to get out of college, while I was intentionally setting film aside and just being a student, um, I think was really important. And that's probably why I got into USC my second time around, because I actually had an answer for those essays, that you have to do, is like, why do you want to be at USC? I actually
Mm.
had a developed legitimate answer. It wasn't just rephrasing the why do you want to be at this college, but just replacing it with USC, you know, like that. And in senior year, that's the mentality everyone's giving you. Like, this is how you got to do your application if you want to get in. It's almost, for me, the personality of it was like lost and in the process, you know.
Yeah, I think like clarifying your intentions is something which I was like, I thought I had understood my intentions like all the way through, and then at the last minute, like even after I'd done my application, when I was like visiting LA, I was like, do I really know why I'm doing all this shit? You know, like, because it's not like I saw, you know, at first it was like when I was little, I was like, oh, okay, I gotta go to film school because that's what you're meant to do, and I want to make films.
Yeah.
And then it's like, what's the top 10 film schools? Like, it's like USC's number 1, NYU's number 2. Cool, that's it. Fuck it. That's just like scholarship to there. That's it. Can't afford like to pay the school fees. And then like, as you get closer to it, you're like, okay, I want to go because I want to make films. And then I want to also be around people who are like me. And like, I want to be in the place like LA where shit's happening and understand that place and live there and whatever. But then as you get more mature as a filmmaker, you start to make more stuff. Me and Harvey started to notice how much are we going to be able to make in USC compared to on our own, and like knowing like you have a really good understanding of like why you're in university, and it's not like the typical reasons. It's like much more deeper cultural understanding of film, not just like making shit like us. So I think clarifying your intentions and having that conversation with yourself is something like people don't do enough, and it's like it will actually help you like unlock so many doors if you understand it correctly.
Yeah, you don't think about it when you're younger. You don't think like you said earlier, Brian, you were saying, you know, you got to move at your own pace. When you're young, you're like, oh, well, all my friends are going to college, so I'll do that, you know. It's like Martin Scorsese went to NYU, so I'll do that if I want to be where Martin Scorsese is. But it's like, you know, compared to everyone in our class now, you know, I look at them and I'm like, you know, I feel like I don't need to. I reckon I can jump in the deep end and swim perfectly fine, you know. So it is exactly what you're saying. Like, it's best for whatever your pace is at the moment.
Yeah. What I've realized too about that, looking at other people's life trajectories and then taking things that they've done and implementing them into your own life, works for some things, but then other things like what college someone went to, I think that's always such an interesting thought process, because I think we all have that thought process. I definitely have that thought process, looking at like what colleges someone went to, and you're like, this person's a great filmmaker, they were here, there must be something there. But truly, like, it's not any different than being like, yo, Wes Anderson eats English muffins with strawberry jam on Tuesdays, so I'm gonna start doing that, and I'm gonna be like Wes Anderson. That would sound ridiculous if you said that. And it's not that much different than trying to go to the same college, because your lives are just, as different people, they're inherently different, and you're going to be coming into that college at a different place in life, and you're definitely going to be leaving that college at a different place in life than that person is. So all you can do is kind of, the best you can do is be aware of yourself, you know, as much as you can be, and that's going to bring you where you need to be. And that's something that I say as if I know that, and as if I have the answer to it, but I truly don't. I'm figuring that out. We're all figuring that out, you know. That's kind of all it is.
So it's like, don't follow anyone else's path, build your own path. That's what I believe.
I'm so I'm so guilty of it. I'm so guilty of like, especially like, I think it's the less you know, the more you're like prone to doing that. It's like when you're just starting out and you don't have any experiences of your own to like apply and know what you want to do, because you haven't like lived, so you wouldn't know. You're just kind of following like life along as it takes you. So when you look at like, shit, he went to this school, he made this short film, like how many, like I'm so guilty of like looking at like how many short films did this person make before they made their feature film, and when did they, and how old were they? Like,
you go through the different phases as well.
And it's like, I'll look at like it's unhealthy. It's really, because like you said with like the muffins, it's like everyone is actually so different, and it's like me, like Martin Scorsese was in fucking like 60s New York, and I'm in like
Yeah, that's true.
I'm in
Exactly. It's also a completely
2020
different time
London,
period.
and it's like
Yeah,
completely different landscape, you know, like,
yeah,
and what I'm realizing more and more as I get closer and closer to, because as I get older, as I become, you know, make more shit and, you know, become more of the filmmaker that I want to be, I notice that everything I'm doing is actually less and less like what I imagined it to be. And like,
mm,
it's less and less what I thought it would end up being like. Obviously, like, no, I'm not going to be a plumber instead of a filmmaker, hopefully. But like, the way that I'm getting to my goal is not in my control, and it's not how I imagined it to be, because it never
yeah,
is. And it's just like, shit's changing at the last minute, and how you deal with those changes defines your path. And like what Harvey is saying, like, that path, like, you just like imitating someone else like is never really going to lead you to be the best person you can be. You know, it's going
yeah.
to lead you to be a less good version of them. So I feel like you said, like self-awareness and
Very
having
true.
that understanding, it's like so helpful, you know.
Mm.
Yeah,
I had a
that's
little
exactly
question
it.
actually, like going back, this is a little bit off topic, but stepping onto a set like as a 19-18-year-old with like, you know, big artists on a music video set, what's it like? Do you feel like there's a different vibe to it if you were like 10 years older, say?
Probably because I've been on sets too with older directors. Like when we were working with Blueface's team, they like to work with obviously a bunch of different people, and there's one director that his manager loves to work with as well. And we were talking about one of the videos, and he was on a set, so he's just like, "Come to the set." It was like the Game and Anderson Pax video, and he was like, "Come to the set, and we'll talk." And that was an older director, and there is a different dynamic, but it's also like just like every other person's different. Every process and every director has a different team, and it's just the vibes are different, but like it's just it's kind of like anyone's creative process, really. It's like we all have different ways of writing, we all have different ways of doing it. It's just important that when you get to that point, you are being true to your process.
Mm.
And it seems like whether it was that set with like an older professional crew, you know, that was their process and that's how they were doing it. And then when we were doing it, it was the same people who have been making movies in high school together, because that is our process. And
Mm.
it's important to be honest with that, because I think that's the way, you know, not treating it like it's something completely different, because it honestly wasn't. Like, I realized, you know, I've made stuff like this and that's how I know how to make stuff. So if I'm gonna make something for this artist, doesn't matter who the artist is, I just have to do it the way I know how to do
Yeah,
it.
I
So
think
that's
there's
kind of
something like there's a shift in mindset like for our generation of filmmakers compared to the last, because like
mm,
because of the level of accessibility of filmmaking and how open it is now. But I said to my teacher the other day, I was like what I do now, like making small short films and seeing like a 30-year-old director and being on his set and how he made a music video, a short film. I don't think there's actually too much different from that. And I think
yeah,
I leave high school, I could walk onto that set and do that job as well. And the teacher was like, "No, fuck you. Like, you can't do that. You're still small." Like all these like kind of other mental barriers. But really that mindset is like the game changer. That's like what
yeah,
sets you apart, you know, the fearlessness.
Mm.
absolutely. And also the fact that everyone, there's something about learning with people that you work with
Mm.
and having those mutual lessons. Like if I'm making a, say Jeremy, who's a gaffer, we do a project together and we learn certain things about like setups that I like, or ways of rigging a light or whatever. We can go take that information, like we have built up a bank of like knowledge together mutually, and we just take that to the next project, you know. And since we already know certain things about our dynamic, we can move forward with that. And having that group of people that you learn with and you work with, um it honestly makes the next one easier, you know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're talking about. It's like the people who are way older than us. It's the same dynamics, you
Yeah.
know. It's not so different.
Yeah, I mean, like, because I mean, all of us, like, moving from being comfortable in what you do now, but like in terms of the future, I guess, like, when I look at all of my friends, I feel like everyone's end goal at the end of the day is to, like, eventually one day somehow be doing feature films. And
Mm.
like, from what I've heard, it's like, it's from some people make it out as if like being a music video director suddenly locks you in a cage and like you can't get out, and like it's so hard suddenly to get to being a like a narrative filmmaker again, or like getting, have you
Yeah.
felt that, or is that kind of just like a myth?
Well, this is what I will say. So what we were saying earlier about the comparing yourself to other people, you can do that to a fault, but there is something there is a healthy element of it where if someone does something that you don't think is possible, then it suddenly opens up your perception of yourself. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's just about, like, your mind's a really powerful thing. If you think I can do this thing and no one can tell you otherwise, you will find a way to do it. So looking at people like Spike Jones who have done that, and make amazing music videos and commercials, but also does not kid himself into thinking he can't make an amazing feature. That's so empowering, because you realize that there is no deciding factor of that other than yourself. Like, just because you make music videos, the world hasn't decided that you can't make features. But if you think the world has decided that, you're going to decide it for yourself. And
Yeah.
really, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you decided that you can't make features,
Yeah.
but you just think that it's the world telling you that.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of what I've realized. It's all mind games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really all about mindset, like what you can do,
Yeah.
what you can achieve, especially in like this field. It's all about like what you allow yourself to achieve. Because like if you really like, especially at our age, you feel it, you know, like you feel it more than
Yeah.
ever. Like the
Yeah.
like the act, like you surprise yourself, and like you'd be halfway through doing something, you'd be like, shit, like what, who told me I could do this? And then you realize it was no one, and then it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, true.
Mm.
Yeah. Well,
I think that's what it's about. It's building your own path, you know, and you won't know what brick will come first, sort of thing.
yeah.
It's all about what happens, and I don't want to get into like that whole sort of thoughtful process, but like it's whatever will happen, and you do have a little bit of an input in it. But if it doesn't go away, you know, it will still work out your way. I think that's how it works.
Exactly. And this too, like, right now we're three filmmakers having a conversation about it and using our different experiences to arrive at a mutual truth, you know, and allow us to have a confidence in our own journeys and our mindset. And that's so important too, is to be with the right people and to be communicating with those people, because filmmaking can be a very like lonesome sort of journey, because it's ultimately, like any other art, about it's like you reflecting on the world and your perspective, but at the same time, like, there are people that are there to support you, and it's just about finding those people too and staying in touch with them,
Yeah,
because that's gonna keep you sane, you know.
Yeah.
that's the biggest benefit, is having people around you. I really think
Yeah,
that. You know, that's why
absolutely.
I've literally just wrote a film about that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why y'all gotta send me your scripts. I'll
Yeah.
give you notes. We gotta
Okay.
be in
100%.
contact.
I was literally, you know what?
That's what it is. Yeah.
We're speaking about mentality and laws of attraction. I was literally thinking for the past few days, like, fuck, I wish I had someone right now to read my shit. Like, who will read? Because, you know, like, I don't know if you feel this, but like, especially when you're a teenager and you write, like, I had a hard enough time trying to get someone to watch like a 5-minute short film I made. But like, if you're like, I've got like a 112-page feature, who the fuck is going to read this and not just tell me like, thanks for sending this over. Like, when I have time, I'll have a look at it, and then send you the same email like 3 or 4 times when you follow up.
Yeah.
Like, it's so like, I feel like you just need to seek this shit out, and like you will find a way to make it.
Well, because the people who are going to read that are the people who would want it to be read if they also do the same thing, like who are at the same situation in their life where they also want to write a feature, they're going to have a feature script, and they want people to read it. It's like, that's the beauty of it, is since you understand that if someone was to come to you with their feature script, you would be like, oh, well, I'm definitely going to read this because I would want them to do the same. And that's a really healthy way to just support each other.
Yeah.
Because people who think they're more important than you aren't going to give the time of day. You know?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, it's not even just that simple. It's just that those people who are, you know, if you're trying to send it to someone who works at a studio or something, they've legitimately they have to segment their time so specifically because they have to operate at such a high level. But yeah, finding those people who would want that same thing is super important.
Yeah, definitely. We need to share our stuff then. It just reminded me, I don't think I've shown any of you my stuff. And all we've done is talk about filmmaking.
Well, you got to send it over.
Yeah, for sure.
You got to send it over.
What's your, like, I mean, just to maybe wrap it up, like, looking forward now, like, where you're at, it's like such high momentum for you and in such a short amount of time, and you've got so much in front of you. Like, what is the direction that you're trying to go towards, and where would you like to be leaving film school?
I'm just trying to get closer to myself, to be honest. That's the direction that I want to be going in. And right now, that's manifesting itself in shorts. I'd love to make a few very solid shorts that really represent me, and to put those up and build a really strong portfolio that is honest, you know, and that you can kind of see me in that work. And if I can do that in my life, much less when I leave film school, I'll feel successful, whether that's through shorts or a feature or whatever it is. Like, that's
beautiful, bro.
That's where I want to be.
Yeah,
honesty is like, I've been realizing that recently, actually. Like, honesty is one of the most important things in filmmaking.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
because it reads.
You hear people talk about it, like honest filmmaking, but like now I look back at what the shorts I've made so far, and like you said about your high school stuff, it's not like consistency. It's like jumping from one thing to the next thing, because I'm really just trying shit out. But like, I want to get,
and that's great. That's great. But yeah, you can tell when you're being honest with yourself. Like, you can really see it in your own work. And it sucks that, like, you have to almost make it, well, I wouldn't say it sucks, but in my experience, like, the moment that you realize how honest you're being with yourself has always most poignantly been once something is finished.
Yeah.
You know, and you can really reflect and be like what resonates with you and what doesn't.
Yeah. And like, even today, me and Harvey were just watching back like the first short we did together, and like, it was such a big thing for us at the time, but now we look back on it and it's just like, you see so many like gaps which you papered over, and I guess it's better to feel
that's the beauty of it. I love that. I love
that's great though too, because you gotta respect that too, where you came from. And
exactly, bro. Yeah, man, I think probably it's time to wrap it up. But thank you so much for coming on. It's been
and thanks for being our first guest as well.
I'm excited to see where this goes. I want to
one day,
only way is up.
One day, Brian Niles is gonna make a Huff Media film. Hopefully,
well, we gotta stay in touch. Keep me in the loop about what you guys are doing.
And if you're ever in London, we'll definitely host.
Oh my God, absolutely! You gotta teach me the slang. You gotta show me all the fire spots, everything.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Thank you so much. Hey everyone, thanks for listening to today's podcast. Just be sure to follow us at Huff Media's Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, just at Huff Media, and you can get daily information of what's going on there and who the next guests are, this, that, the other. Keep huffing and puffing.